So for the next segment, we're going to talk about how to sign up for your clinical sessions. These are the ones that you're doing at the hospitals or at the fire departments, and they are separate from your faculty sessions. Your faculty sessions are fixed and non-negotiable. These are quite flexible and quite open. We'll talk about some of the what to do and what not to do. There's two different sites involved though, and I'm leaving this link up here for a few seconds so people can find it on the video, but also so that you've got access. www.sinclair.edu/EMS is the departmental page where you can find information of which sites belong to us and what areas can we use, and contact information if they're not computer-based sign-up. For those that are computer-based sign-up, they're indicated on the information on that page, but they are also located at ems.sinclair.edu. So let's talk about these a little bit. First thing is to check our department website for contact information and where the eligible sites are. If we don't have a contract with the hospital that you're looking for, we have a contract with Premier, but there are Premier sites that we do not have clinical agreements with. So, for example, at the moment, at the time of this, we don't have an agreement with Austin Landing. We don't have an agreement with Miami Valley North. We do have an agreement with Miami Valley and Miami Valley South and Atrium. Kettering, there are also sites there that we do and don't have, so make sure that you're confirming that we have an agreement with those sites. If the department is not listed, then you cannot do any clinical there. Even if you've got friends or buddies that are there, it's a major problem because we have to have permission from the site to do so. You have to have confirmation that they have all the paperwork in. If you're wanting to add a site, we're not terribly interested in adding sites unless it provides a massive gain that we do not have something similar. That gets into more of an issue with the field sites, but either way, it's got to be an attractive package, and it's not something that can be done in a day or a week very easily. It's a contract that has to be signed by the president of the college and by a signatory for the department. And the department, usually that is not even just the chief of the department. Quite often, for example, with Dayton, it would be the city manager or the mayor are the ones that would have to sign that agreement. The chief of the department is not able to sign that form. So make sure that you're looking at the areas that are listed. Some hospitals allow ICU and others might be just ER. If they have online clinical sign-up, you are not permitted under any circumstances to call or contact that hospital to request special privileges or I want a different shift or a different day. That's part of our agreement with them. They're reserving slots for Sinclair students alone so that you're able to get in there and do your clinical and not have to play phone tag with someone. And so the real part of that is that they don't have to play phone tag with you. If you have the ability to sign up for a site online, you cannot call them. You can't tell your friend to ask somebody to sign you up for a specific site. If you're scheduling online, it requires a 72-hour notice typically, and you may not get into an online site on 24 hours notice or 48 hours notice. You have to schedule those in advance. If it's a pinch and I desperately need to get someplace, we do have sites that are not online. Bethesda is an example, Atrium is an example, and there are a number of other places that have non-online scheduling, and you're welcome to call them and ask for something a little different. They are pretty rare to grant a request of I want to go from 12:30 until 2:15. They're not terribly likely to do that, but if it's the day before and they don't have anyone scheduled, sometimes they'll allow you to do a weird shift. Just be polite and respectful when you're asking. If you're calling and asking for anything over the phone, then make sure that you give them information. I've honestly heard playbacks of calls left by students that said, "Hi, I'm a Sinclair student and I want to schedule clinical. Please call me." Click. And there's no phone number. They don't know your name. They don't know what kind of clinical you're wanting to do or anything. So an appropriate way to do this would be to say, "Hi, my name is Jim Simonson. I'm a Sinclair Paramedic student. I'm wanting to schedule a shift at the ER. I have next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's May 22nd, 23rd, 24th dates. And I'm available anytime either 7 to 3 or 3 to 11. whatever your schedule is, give them several different options, several different dates, and if you'd like to have 3 or 4 shifts, ask them if they can schedule that for you. As I said, if it's an online system, then you have to schedule them online. If it's a phone system, then you have to schedule by phone, and there are a couple of them that have email addresses. For example, Green right now is one of our anesthesia sites, and you have the opportunity to schedule OR time with them, and you have to send an email to emsclinicalskills@ketteringhealth.org. If you're canceling, you cancel the same way that you scheduled. Cancel as soon as you know you're not available. If you schedule a shift for July 15th and you get platooned and you no longer can do that shift on July 15th, then go ahead and cancel that the day you find out. That could be 2 months in advance. They understand that changes happen, but just signing up and canceling regularly, we've had students in the past that will sign up for 10 shifts a week and then cancel 6 of them. And that's highly unprofessional behavior. It's going to get you a bad reputation with the site. We're going to hear about it, and it can cause some disciplinary action if it gets egregious. So please be careful with canceling too much, scheduling and canceling too much. Now, everyone that's here that's scheduling this is familiar with EMS, so they understand of the platooning. If you get shifted to a different day and you all of a sudden have to cancel everything you did and reschedule, that's a beautiful time to take a look at the emails, and you'll have the email address of that person, or you can let me know or let your clinical instructor know and contact the person and say, hey, I just wanted to tell you I got platooned. I apologize for all these changes. Because every one of those generates an individual email that the the clinical coordinator is going to have to go in and adjust in their calendar. So it is a pain to do a huge number of these changes. Emergencies come up, we understand that. Likewise, if you're showing up for a clinical shift, we'll talk about this more later too, but if you're showing up for a clinical shift late and you show up 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes late every single time, that's just sloppiness, and it looks bad. It's unprofessional behavior. They expect you to be there on time. Likewise, if you're scheduling something and, well, I work until 7, but I'm going to schedule for a shift at 6 a.m. Well, you know you're not going to be able to make that, and that's inappropriate. The clinical sites are the ones that choose what their shifts are. If you don't like their hours, then go to a different clinical site. You cannot contact them or just sign up for shifts and leave early on a regular basis. Emergencies happen. They're very familiar with that. We got a late run, and I needed to do overhaul, or I needed to decontaminate or something after a call, and you got in late an hour. If you're going there every week, they're very familiar with that. That's no problem. But if you're doing it week after week after week and you're constantly running late, they're going to realize that you really didn't want that shift in the first place, and that's eliminating an opportunity for somebody else to get those hours. So professional behavior, no different than if you show up at a site, you wouldn't want them to say, oh, sorry, we have too many students. You're going to have to just sit here for 2 hours and wait to start your shift. That's the equivalent of the level of professionalism on there. A couple quick reminders that go with this. You're only a paramedic student when you're acting as a paramedic student. You cannot perform any paramedic skills except as allowed by the policies that we've set forth. You have to be an extra person at the site where you're working. If you work for an ER and they're able to cut you loose and say, hey, we don't need you to do your regular routine day-to-day opportunity, and they're paying you, we don't mind that they're paying you during that time, but you have to be an extra body. You cannot be part of essential staffing. There's a lot more discussion on that in your clinical handbook or your paramedic student handbook, and feel free to ask your clinical instructors if you have questions on there too. You're not able to do skills for practice in the field. If you do something and you blow an IV, there's some malpractice insurance if you're doing everything appropriately. If you're not, you're on your own, and the state of Ohio does not take kindly to students working outside of scope of practice when they don't have permission to do so. Sinclair is a bit anal retentive as far as picking at this stuff. I'm aware of that. I realize that's a little bit of a gripe of some of our students, but the reason that we are is we want to protect you and make sure that you don't do something that is going to get you into trouble. I'm aware of other places that have a much more lax policy on there, and while there haven't been real major incidents, there's a possibility for something. If somebody has an allergic reaction to the tape that you used and they weren't aware of it, you've been doing things appropriately, the insurance company that we have for you will pretty much come to bat for you and help to resolve this problem for you. But if you're doing it just outside of your scope and then say, yeah, but I'm a Sinclair Paramedic student and you were just second person on a run, I'm not going to be one to back you, nor is the department. So if you're in doubt, just don't do it. Let's take a quick look at how to schedule. So if you're scheduling your clinicals, go back into ems.sinclair.edu. The EMS is up at the front. And you're going to pick and choose your sites. And if you look, you can choose these by department. So we've got anesthesia. This is a big question all the time. Where's the OR? Anesthesia is considered the OR. This is something that was built by IT and it's challenging to change and more cumbersome than what it's worth. So anesthesia is talking about the OR rotations on there. We have very little available. We've actually got one site on Fridays right now. So this is the entire semester's worth. The other places that we have are call to schedule on there. But if I want to schedule something like an emergency room, let's take a look and see what's available for the emergency room for this upcoming semester. It's going to take it a while to load. I can search by the location, that's the city, or I can look for specific dates. I can browse through the clinical sites by name. So if I know the name, I want Miami Valley, I can click on that, killing a little time while this is loading a massive list of emergency room shifts that are available. Most of the time that you're going to be doing as a clinical student are going to be done in the emergency room. So the ER is where you'll schedule the vast majority of your time. And if you take a look now for 5/16 alone, this is Thursday, 4 days from now, all these shifts are available that one single day, and then we keep moving on forward. So right there, this is all this just up through the month of May. Now we're into June. The month of June, we've got tons and tons of ER shifts that are available that you can schedule and pick and choose online. Once you click these and click submit, the shift is yours unless you hear back from the site. They occasionally have to cancel due to an unusual circumstance. Sometimes they'll have their, for example, with Miami Valley, the care flight nurses will come in, or they might have Wright State coming in and doing internships. Interns are doing a rotation there and they've just got too many things going on, so they'll have to schedule. In those cases, if they contact you and say, hey, we'll help get you rescheduled, then that's okay. But you shouldn't be contacting them to reschedule, and just be flexible. They understand if you have an emergency that comes up or something that's unusual, you should be equally respectful. But there are large numbers of sites that are available, and you can pick and choose. You can schedule out a pretty healthy amount. Some of the sites don't want you scheduling too many shifts in advance, so you may have to come back. But as you can see, even with a group of 30 students competing for the clinical sites, there's not that much difficulty in finding even the place that you want, as long as you're just a little bit flexible on time. And they do have overnight shifts. Another question that came in recently was, for example, this Thursday, 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. This is talking about Thursday 12 a.m. to Thursday 8 a.m. So that would be a Thursday morning shift. This is the beginning of Thursday. So you'd actually drive there on Wednesday night, show up a few minutes before midnight, and then on Thursday you start your shift. The one after that would be the 8 to 4 and then a 4 to midnight. Some of the other hospitals, Miami Valley, for example, does 7 to 3s and 3 to 11, and then they have an 11 to 7, 11p to 7a. This is Thursday night. So this shift here, the Thursday 11 p.m. starts 23 hours later than the Thursday that started at midnight. They are not always going to be in perfect order chronologically on here, so just pay attention to what the times are. The start time is that date, but if you've got a midnight start time, you're talking about the actual date. So the 12:01 is part of the date here. This 11 o'clock, you're actually starting Thursday night, so this goes from Thursday night, the 16th, through 7 a.m. on the 17th, Friday morning. If you have questions, let your clinical instructor know, or contact me or your lecture instructor, and we'll solve it for you. As I said, you can also look through and choose your sites. So, for example, Miami Valley Hospital South, are listed on here. Wayne Healthcare is listed. If you're looking for children's, you can just click on children's and see what shifts. There's not quite as many there, but once again, most people only need 1, maybe 2 shifts, and there's an awful lot of availability out here. So try and get these scheduled and get set in. Now, how do I find out where the other sites are? Because anesthesia, there's more than 5 students. As I said, what you're looking for is this www.sinclair/EMS. This is our departmental page. So www.sinclair.edu/EMS. When I navigate to that page, this is our department. And it's just a shortcut. You can type the whole thing out or bookmark it if you want, and that's fine. But come down here to clinical information. When I click on clinical information, I scroll down. I've got the ambulance sites. So if I'm scheduling a fire department, for example, I can look at the ambulance sites on here. And you'll find most of these are contact the fire department. For the ambulance sites, this is the number of runs that they do per year, and then their contact information. They're broken up by county. So you may have to scroll around a little bit to find the one that you're looking for. Dayton Fire Department and Huber Heights Fire Department currently are both online scheduling. You may not call or talk to Dayton or Huber and ask them for a shift. You have to schedule them through the online tool. You have to cancel them through the online tool. So they don't have phone numbers listed intentionally for that purpose. The other departments you can contact this way. So if I go back to the clinical site page, here's the hospital sites. So Atrium Medical Center. Atrium Medical Center is down in Middletown. You got the ER, schedule that through this email link. I'm sorry, not OR, but obstetrics and labor and delivery, you can schedule. The behavioral health unit is available on Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. You can schedule that through there. Please give them a couple of dates on there. And if you want to go into the cath lab gives you a chance mostly to observe procedures. It's an awesome place to go and look. I'd almost consider doing that for professional development more so than clinical hours, but you'd have to call and schedule that by phone. Children's, as you can see, the children's ER is set up through the ems.sinclair.edu. In the rare event that you want to do time at Children's ICU, honestly, I probably would discourage that for a paramedic student. However, if you'd like to go in and do a shift up there, you're permitted to do so. You would need to call Heather Koss to do that. She's given permission for that particular site. Fort Hamilton is currently not available as an OR site. We'll get that updated on our page here shortly. But the other OR sites are available here. So Green Memorial, you can send an email to this site. If you're scheduling the ER at Green, then you're going to use the online system. So you'll notice some of these are split. TriHealth Bethesda is another one of our operating room sites. They're another one of our OR sites. So you'll need to get in touch with them a little bit in advance because you have to do an online clinical orientation process with them. They've got a site-specific orientation. You have to complete that before you go. Once you do it, it's good for your entire program. You don't have to do it for each shift, but you do have to do it once in order to get that done. Upper Valley has the ER available. Wayne is available. You have the emergency department primarily. You're going to find that you're going to need to probably contact Eric directly in order to schedule that. And Wilson is up in Sydney, so very far north on there. We're actually in the process of trying to get the OR on there, but I can't promise exactly how soon that will be. So please keep in mind, as I said, Fort Hamilton, we have to make an update on the page here. The OR is not currently available for us. The other sites we do have available. So for OR time, you've got Green Memorial at this moment. You have Grandview, which you schedule online, and you have Bethesda, TriHealth North. All three of them are good experiences for you. We've gotten feedback from the sites that they really encourage you to come in and watch the LMAs because they are things that you're able to use from time to time. While they don't count toward your tubes, occasionally you'll get the opportunity to ventilate a patient. You might get to suction, you may get to push medications, and it's a really good experience to go in and see those things when they happen. But that is essentially the process for scheduling your clinical sessions. If you have questions, contact your clinical instructor, or you can contact your lecture instructor and we'll get you on track.